Hello folks, this is Suloy speaking, and you're listening to a commentary video on League of Legends, this one featuring Cho'Gath, so a new champion this time. I'm playing in a pre-made team, along with Atlas, who uses the username Bertrand de Horn, who's playing Dr. Mundo, Voice of Unreason playing Warwick, Cole playing Swain, and Mookie playing Xin Zhao. If you notice on the other team, one thing that I want to point out is that their Heimerdinger player has taken the summoner skills Exhaust and Clarity, which means that he essentially has no escape skills. I suppose you can use Exhaust to escape, but that is not the best escape skill. You can only use it against one opponent, and he's taking Clarity as his other skill for extra mana. That would prove to be pretty important, because Heimer is indeed going to be taking a solo lane, as you'd expect for their team, and his lack of escapability is going to cause him some major problems. Anyway, I was considering soloing in the top lane. However, Cole asked if he could solo, and because this is my first game as Cho'Gath, I thought that that was perfectly alright, and I was happy to take a duo lane down in the bottom. So in terms of our setup, we're going to have Cole, who's playing as Swain, up in the top lane. We're going to have Mookie playing Xin Zhao in the middle lane. We're going to have Voice of Unreason jungling with Warwick, and then I'm going to be down in the duo lane in the bottom, along with Atlas, who's playing as Mundo. Since this is the first time I've played as Cho'Gath, I'm going to spend some time talking about his abilities once we get down into the lane. Right here in the opening phase, we were just trying to protect our Warwick player, Voice, from getting attacked by the other team. I was trying to set things up so that we had visibility on both entrances into our jungle down here in the bottom, and Atlas kept following me, which is a little bit funny. And then at this point I was like, hey Atlas, stop following me. Our main goal here is just to make sure that they can't get into our jungle and mess with our Warwick player, so that's what's going on there. Anyway, let me talk a little bit about what Cho'Gath does. Cho'Gath is played as a tank, but he also is a character who does a lot of ability power damage. He's sort of a mixture of tank and ability power as far as champions go. He's definitely not the best tank in the game as far as the metagame is currently set up, but he's definitely also very much viable as a character, and he has some interesting abilities. He will get a ton of health just due to his ultimate, which I'll talk more about a little bit later on. And so he's actually quite good at farming too. If you can put Cho in a solo lane and get him with a ton of farm, he can start stacking tank items and some ability power items, and he can be very effective. And I've seen some of the top tier players playing as Cho'Gath before in some high level games, so definitely a viable character, and certainly a very different champion if you want to try playing as him. Alright, I'm going to start by talking a little bit about some of his abilities, run through what they do. Cho'Gath has a passive called Carnivore, which gives him back additional life and mana every time he kills an enemy unit. Like right there, did you see the little green sparkles around Cho'Gath? That was his passive kicking in. So anytime he kills a unit, he can get health, and he recovers health and mana. This is one of the reasons why he can be really tough to kill in a solo lane. Once he gets some points in his abilities, he can just start farming, and he'll be recovering health and mana every time he kills a unit, and he can just, because of his natural tankiness, be extremely difficult to kill. Alright, Cho'Gath's W is what I skilled first, so I'm going to talk about that one first. This skill is called Feral Scream. It's the one you saw me using there. He does damage in a cone in front of him, and it silences any target that gets hit by it. Useful skill. It has a pretty good ability power ratio. I think it's 0.7 last time I looked at it, so that's a pretty good AP ratio. Will do pretty good damage as you increase it. So there you see it right there. It has short range. Almost all of Cho's skills have short range, which fits his tanky nature. So you have to get up close with it, but if you max it out, it silences for a pretty long duration. I think the duration is 3 seconds at max rank. So very useful skill, again, especially against caster champs. If you can get up close and silence them, they won't be able to do anything for the next couple of seconds. So particularly if you're trying to catch a Kassadin or something, you can prevent him from rift walking away. You can use it to stop various ultimates that are channeled. For instance, like a Nunu ult, Absolute Zero, if you silence him in the middle of his ult, it won't go off or you'll cancel it. So useful ability to have, certainly on a tank. And it's also the easiest one of his skills to hit with, so that's why I'm skilling it first. Cho'Gath's Q skill is the one I skilled second, so I'm going to cover that next. Its skill is called Rupture, and that's the little targeting circle you see me placing. This skill, you point it on a little circle on the ground, and after a delay of about 1 second, I think it's a little shorter than that, but it's about 1 second, these little spikes will pop up from the ground, and any units that happen to be in that area will take damage. And they will also get popped up into the air for, I guess, about a second. And then they'll be slowed afterwards, after they come back down. So this is a very useful skill. This is one of Cho'Gath's, this is possibly Cho'Gath's best skill, excuse me. However, because of the delay, it's very difficult to hit with. That, I mean, you have to wait, like I said, you have to wait about a second before the little rupture spines actually appear. And like right there, I do actually manage to hit Jax with it, and then I follow up with a silence. So for Cho'Gath, Rupture is the skill that does has the most range. All of his other skills are short range. It's the only one that has range. But if you can hit with Rupture and then follow it up with his silence, you have a really effective combo. Anyway, here we have an actual fight breaking out. Atlas is going after their Jax player. However, Jax is able to leap away, and then they use Exhaust and Ignite on Atlas, and he has to flash away. And with his health potion, he just barely manages to escape. Now, you didn't see me doing very much in that battle, but that's because, as if you noticed, I'm out of mana, so I couldn't use any of my skills there. I had been using my mana to try and harass Jax, and did a pretty good job because we got him down to about half health, but unfortunately that also ran me out of mana, and prevented me from doing too much in the fight there. Right there, you see me use Cho'Gath's Scream again. I think that was a waste. I think that was just a waste of mana. Should have just saved it there. A lot of people, you'll see, will buy a Sapphire Crystal, starting out with Cho, just to give him a little bit more mana, because he has very little natural mana. Anyway, in the middle lane, right there, we had our Warwick player, Voice of Unreason, come over and help Mookie go after their Heimer. And remember what I said at the beginning of the video? Heimer had no escape mechanism, so with Warwick, along with Xin Zhao's charge, that was a very easy kill. Now, Voice is coming down here to help us, so I'm going to start up the combo with my Rupture, and I managed to slow down Jax. Atlas is going to ignite him, I exhaust him, Jax actually cleanses the exhaust. Now we're going to get one more Cleaver and Silence, and that's going to finish off the kill. So that was some very nice team play there. We managed to get the kill there. Probably the best play that I got off with Cho'Gath in this game, since I'm still trying to learn him. This is, as I said, my first game. Was able to start that off with the Rupture that set up the combo, because it was able to slow Jax. Then Atlas ignited him, I exhausted him, but nice play from the enemy team's Jax too. He had Cleanse, and he used Cleanse to cleanse the exhaust, but we were still able to finish him off with a Cleaver and then a final Silence from me. Alright, so we were able to get a kill there in the bottom lane, and just for the record, in case if you're watching this, you're probably already aware of this, but this is why you take a jungler, so your jungler can come down and attack lanes like this. That's why we're able to get the kill middle lane, able to get the kill bottom lane, because we were able to turn a 1-on-1 into a 2-on-1, and a 2-on-2 into a 3-on-2. So yeah, the other team doesn't have a jungler, which is really silly on their part, but whatever, I have seen that before. Anyway, I'm going back to buy. I'm going to pick up boots here, and then I'm going to pick up the first part of a catalyst. And notice that I buy the red crystal, the ruby crystal first. I think in retrospect that was a mistake. I needed more mana. I didn't need more health. You can see I only have 400 mana. That would have been increased by about 50% if I had bought a sapphire crystal instead. So I should have bought the sapphire crystal as the first part of the catalyst instead. Catalyst, really good item on Cho. It goes along with his passive Carnivore, helps him keep farming. You can build it into either Rod of Ages, or you can build it into Banshee's Veil. Both are really useful items on Cho'Gath. Also notice the time I picked to go back in the lane. Notice how I've missed essentially no minions whatsoever, because I went back at the right time. And here we're going to farm up these minions. Anyway, now that the action is sort of back to the farming phase, I'll run through the rest of Cho'Gath's abilities. His E-skill is something that you might have seen in action while I've been playing here. It's called Vorpal Spikes. It's a passive. Never has an active feature. What happens is when Cho'Gath auto-attacks, little spikes shoot out from his attack that do extra damage. Like right there, you saw my actual auto-attack didn't kill the minion, but then the Vorpal Spikes did. You can turn them off, and the one time you would generally want to turn them off is at a tower, because you will take aggression from the tower if you hit a minion and then your spikes would fly out and hit an enemy champ. So sometimes you might want to turn them off, but generally just leave them on. This is probably Cho's weakest skill. It's not something that you really want to give any kind of priority to, but I think it is useful to put 1 point into it, just because it allows you to draw aggression. And with Cho being a tank, sometimes you want to draw aggression. I mean, like let's say you're playing, Annie or Tristana or some kind of squishy champion. You don't want to draw aggression at the tower, but as Cho'Gath, you often will want to draw aggression at the tower. You'll want the tower focusing on you and not focusing on the rest of your team. So. Useful skill, I think, to put 1 point in, but then you sort of come back to it later. His Rupture and his Scream are more useful skills. All right. Anyway, now I'm level 6, and that opens up Cho'Gath's last skill. This is known as Feast, and what happens is Cho'Gath will eat a minion or an enemy champ, and you can see right there the little targeting circle. It has very, very short range, but if you can hit with it, it does a lot of damage. If you eat a minion, then Cho'Gath will gain Feast stacks. Now, if you notice right above the Scream little indicator on the interface down there, you can see a little face there, a little sort of grinning demon face there. That shows that I have 1 Feast stack. Every time that Cho'Gath eats a minion, you will gain a Feast stack, and you can gain up to 6 of them, and each one adds extra health. Extra max health for him. So if you can get it up to the max, which is 6 stacks, you will have a lot of health, particularly after you hit level 16 and can get rank 3 in your ultimate. You'll have just a ton of health. But the downside is every time that you die, you lose half of your Feast stacks. So it's a little bit like a mini Mijai's or one of the snowball items. So one of the things with Cho'Gath, if you're winning the game, he can be almost unkillable. But if you start to get behind, then then Feast is not going to be so useful. But you can also use it to kill enemy champs too. Don't have to use it just to feast minions, and it will do quite a bit of damage. But the downside is very, very short range. So if you see once again there, I have like no range to hit with it. So you have to be right next to them to hit. Anyway, so if we're playing Cho'Gath, you'll want to, in the laning phase, you'll want to keep feasting minions. You want to get up to 6 stacks as quickly as possible for the extra health. Later on, you'll want to save your feast once you have max stacks for feasting on enemy champs. This is also known as Cho'Gath's Nom Nom skill because of the sound effect he makes when you eat something. He goes Nom 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 Nom. So anyway, you might often see people referring to that. Voice of Unreason came down here, and we were thinking of maybe going after the bottom lane again, but they were pushed up against their tower because Atlas and I had been sort of pushing them, trying to zone them a little bit. So instead, because the lane was pushed, we decided we'll just go and go for the dragon instead. So that's a much smarter play than trying to dive after their tower or something like that. So good. I think that was a pretty solid play by our team. And notice that we were able to get the dragon focusing on me, which is pretty good. Although really any of the 3 of us there would have been okay, since we were all pretty tanky between the 3 of us. Anyway, I don't know where bottom lane went at this point. I'm not sure where they disappeared to. I guess they maybe went back to heal, but if that's going to give us some free farm, we'll take advantage of it. Just here between the 2 of us. Elsewhere, the one person who's been in a tough position in this game has been Cole, who has been playing 2v1 the whole time because, again, the enemy team doesn't have a jungler, as I think I've mentioned before. So that means that he needs some help, and so our Warwick player, Voice of Unreason, is going to go up and try to help him at the top. You can see he said the top's almost dead. Anyway, for whatever reason, Jax is all alone down here. I was going to try to feast him, but he stunned me. Anyway, he chases me. I dropped Rupture behind me. That popped him up into the air, and then that allowed Atlas to finish him off. So Atlas gets the kill. I get the assist. Not really sure what he was doing there, why he tried to pick a fight 2-on-1 with us. But anyway, we were able to get the kill. A pretty decent use of Rupture there. Was able to pop him up in the air, and that sort of set up the rest of the action there. Now, unfortunately, we did lose our top tower there. That was a consequence of us playing 2v1 up there. However, in the process, as you've noticed, we ended up getting 4 kills. The fact that we had a jungler allowed us to score a dragon and also scored us 3 or 4 kills. So I'd say that was very much a trade-off in our favor. After all, it is only an entry-level tower and in a side lane at that. So anyway, right here we're trying to zone back their I think their Garen player a little bit, and Atlas is doing a pretty effective job of that, I'd say. Alright, getting close to the end of this video. You can see the farming stats there. I'm going to go back. I'm going to buy a Catalyst. I'm going to buy towards Merc Treads. And we'll pick this up again in part 2. So stay tuned.
And I just bought Merc